With Eagles starting slot cornerback Avonte Maddox set to likely miss the rest of the season, could this Eagles All-Pro be getting ready to make a huge switch to a new role? Well, someone who did take on a new role this year was Jordan Davis, and he's been proving that he could be a future star over these first few weeks of the season, plus some of the other Philly Dawgs and other players on the team have really been showing out recently, while other members of the team, specifically on offense, have struggled to begin the year, and things may not get much easier, as Jalen Hurts and the Eagles might actually be in for a big challenge this week. So what do they have to clean up in preparation for it? Plus, on top of that, the Eagles just made a big roster move that a lot of people have been anticipating for weeks. So we're going to talk about all that in this video today, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. So just real quick, to start this video off, we actually have some breaking news coming out of Philadelphia, as the Eagles have actually gone out and made a big change at punter, as they have released Arryn Siposs from the practice squad, who obviously was the team's punter for the last 2 seasons and also the first 2 games of this season. But after disappointing on Thursday, the Eagles have officially released him, and now the Eagles have signed punter Braden Mann to their practice squad, which is obviously huge. I mean, there's been a lot of smoke around this for a few weeks now, ever since the Eagles initially cut Arryn Siposs during their final roster cuts, and then we didn't know exactly who the Eagles punter was going to be for this season. They obviously then brought Siposs back to the practice squad, and he was the team's punter for the first 2 games. But throughout the weeks, the Eagles have been looking at different punters, trying to upgrade at that position. They obviously have worked out a few guys, including Braden Mann, and now that move has finally happened. Braden Mann is officially on the Eagles practice squad, and he'll probably be this team's punter moving forward. So I definitely think that's an upgrade over Arryn Siposs, and I'm really happy with that move. I'm just excited to see what Braden Mann is able to do as the Eagles' new punter starting in week 3. But what do you guys think? Let me know what you think about the Mann signing down in the comments. And now with that being said, let's get into the rest of the video. So aside from the 2 Monday night games tonight, NFL Week 2 has concluded, and as of now, the Eagles are one of just 8 undefeated teams remaining in the league, 3 of those being in the NFC East, as that division is the only division in the entire NFL with 3 2-0 teams remaining, and no team is winless either, as the Giants, who are the one team that's not 2-0, is 1-1 after a comeback win yesterday versus the Cardinals. So yes, it's very early in the season, but the NFC East looks like it could already be shaping up to be a very competitive division once again, just like it was last year. So it's a good thing that the Eagles have been able to get off to a 2-0 start, which is perfect, at least in terms of wins and losses, but on the field, neither the play or the coaching has been perfect whatsoever. I mean, new offensive coordinator Brian Johnson has been under a lot of criticism for his play calling during the first 2 weeks, and that's for very good reason. I mean, the offense at times has looked really boring and predictable, some of the play calls haven't really made much sense, and overall, the passing game in particular hasn't really been able to get into a rhythm yet, which is surprising with the amount of talent that the Eagles have. But again, most of it has to do with play calling, as Brian Johnson has called less RPOs, less rollouts, and there's just a lot less creativity, it seems, in terms of the passing game. So that's something that's going to need to be fixed moving forward. But however, I will give credit to Brian Johnson for some of what he did on Thursday, as when the run game started rolling, he stuck with it, he committed to it, and it really paid dividends for the entire offense as the game went on. And we obviously saw the great performance that the offensive line and DeAndre Swift in particular were able to have. But still, moving forward, the offensive play calling and creativity just needs to be better. And so does Jalen Hurts. I mean, I'm just going to say it. I know we love Jalen Hurts, so we don't want to say anything bad about him, but that's why we got to hold him accountable too. And look, I'm not even saying that he's playing bad right now, because he's really not. He's been playing fine, but he also hasn't been playing at the level that we know he can play at. And I'm sure a lot of it, again, has to do with play calling, but there's also plays that you can look back on and say, well, that was just a mistake from Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's missed some throws, he's missed some reads, he's had some bad turnovers, and he just has yet to play his best brand of football this season. And you know, it's okay to say this. I'm not saying Hurts stinks all of a sudden or anything like that. I'm just saying that we know how good Hurts can be, we know what he's capable of doing, and we also know how much money that the Eagles paid Hurts and what they paid him to do. So now he's got to go out there and do it. He's played all right these past few games. He's done enough to help the Eagles win the first 2 games, but moving forward when going up against better teams, he's just going to have to be better. And I'm 100% confident that he will. He's too talented and too hard of a worker to not play better than he is right now. And I think in time, with this new QB and offensive coordinator pairing with Brian Johnson, the two will get a lot better together. But Hurts certainly isn't going to have it easy this upcoming week, as the Eagles offense is now preparing for somewhat of a challenge coming on week 3's Monday Night Football matchup with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as the Bucs defense has performed well in the first 2 weeks of the season, holding the Vikings offense to less yards and points than the Eagles did on Thursday, and then getting 6 sacks versus the Bears on Sunday, while also holding them to 17 points. Plus, the Bucs defense very clearly has some great players, so while this may not be one of the most elite defenses in the NFL, it's definitely a very solid group, and one that shouldn't be taken lightly by this Eagles offense, which again has struggled. And the Bucs offense shouldn't be taken lightly either. I mean, Baker Mayfield has been surprisingly good over the first 2 weeks of the season, and they of course still have some great weapons on the outside, highlighted by Mike Evans, who just came off a dominant performance versus the Bears on Sunday. So the Eagles defense is definitely going to have their work cut out for them to prepare for this matchup. And a big part of that is the decision that they're going to have to make for who's going to start at slot cornerback. As obviously now at this point, it unfortunately has been confirmed that Avonte Maddox is going to miss a lot of time, maybe the rest of the season, with a torn pec, and he's set to have surgery this week. And this really stinks, because Maddox is a guy who, like I said in my last video, when he's on the field, he's one of the better slot cornerbacks in the NFL. He just can't seem to stay out there, and with all this news swirling that he's probably going to be done for the year, Maddox actually had a message that he posted on Instagram regarding the situation where he said, quote, "Seems as though I can never catch a break, but I know for sure I never quit. You can count me out all you want, but I know the process." So at least it sounds like Maddox is optimistic that he'll come back stronger than ever despite this tough situation. But now for the Eagles, they gotta figure out what they're doing at the slot cornerback position, and the obvious choice as of now would be Mario Goodrich, who was an undrafted free agent that the Eagles picked up after the 2022 draft, and he now this season was able to work himself up to being on the active roster, and when Maddox went out on Thursday, Goodrich was the guy who came in to replace him. However, he just wasn't very good. He really struggled in coverage against talented guys like Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, which, to be fair, who wouldn't? But still, it was ultimately a lackluster performance from Goodrich, so do the Eagles feel comfortable rolling with him to start moving forward? I really don't know. Would they be open to trying someone like preseason star Eli Ricks? I mean, it seems like they could be, because later in the game, there were points where Eli Ricks was actually out on the field, and I believe in the slot, so I guess we'll see if that's something the Eagles would actually try despite Ricks primarily being an outside guy. And speaking of that, there might actually be a possibility of the Eagles moving one of their top outside guys inside to replace Maddox, and that guy is All-Pro James Bradberry. Now, I do want to point out that at this point, this is mainly just speculation on the part of myself and also Brandon Lee Gowton, but if the Eagles were really uncomfortable with all their other options at slot cornerback, there is some logic behind the idea that maybe the Eagles could turn to Bradberry to play in the slot, considering that during training camp, the Eagles had Bradberry taking a lot of reps in the slot, learning that position better and better, and they did this seemingly to use him in the slot against some of the better tight ends that they had on their schedule this year. But now that Avonte Maddox is hurt, Bradberry might realistically be in line for a move to the slot cornerback spot. And I mean, Brandon Lee Gowton of Bleeding Green Nation echoed this when he said, quote, "With McPherson and Maddox sidelined, Bradberry's move to the inside could come sooner than expected and on a full-time basis, at least for this season." I mean, you can't argue that it doesn't at least make some sense. Now, will the Eagles actually do it, or should they even do it? I personally think the answer to both of those questions is no. I mean, Bradberry is an all-pro on the outside, so even if he might actually be the Eagles' best option at slot cornerback at this point, you would then be taking him away from a position where he's already proven that he can be among the game's best, and then you're relying on some other unproven guy like a Josh Jobe to fill that void. I mean, I personally think that the Eagles would just roll with Goodrich or Ricks and see how it goes this week, and Bradberry, who is expected to clear concussion protocol ahead of Monday night, will remain on the outside. But what do you guys think? Am I wrong? Should Bradberry be moved to the inside with Maddox now injured for the rest of the season, it looks like? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Now, real quick, before we continue on with the rest of the video, I just want to say, if you are enjoying this video and want to see others like it coming in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Around 80% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. If you're one of those people, you've been consistently watching these videos, you're enjoying them, and you love the Philadelphia Eagles and don't want to miss any coverage on them coming throughout the rest of this season, make sure you fix that right now, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I think that's a win-win for the both of us. Now, with all that being said, let's get back into the video. But now, moving on, we got to talk about some of these Philly Dawgs, because there have been a few of them that have actually been really impressive to start the year, and that starts with the second-year man Jordan Davis, as he seemingly already began to take that jump that everyone was hoping he'd take from last year to this year to become a very good player. I mean, this is why you can't write players off so quickly. Some people were calling Davis a bust after last year, despite the fact that he was dealing with an injury for most of it, and also, he didn't really have that big of a role on the team. But now this year, that bust label looks to be the farthest thing from the truth just 2 games into the season. I mean, he showed his ability to dominate in both games so far. Game 1 versus the Patriots, he obviously had that forced fumble on Ezekiel Elliott that then set the Eagles up in perfect position to score a touchdown, which they then did. And also during that game, he got his first half sack in the NFL while leading a dominant effort for the Eagles' run defense. And then he continued to dominate on Thursday versus the Vikings, even though he really wasn't on the field for that many plays, which I don't agree with, but this dude was a monster when he was out there. I mean, not only did he continue to be good against the run, but against the pass, he also made a very real impact, as he's clearly developed a lot as a pass rusher in just 1 season, and his use of his hands has also gotten a lot better, and of course, his power is always going to be there, as on his 1 sack on Thursday night, he took out 3 guys, including the quarterback, all at once to just completely blow up the play and again finish with the sack. So it's been a great start to the year for JD, and he now looks to form the Eagles' defensive tackle duo of the future along with his fellow Philly Dawg Jalen Carter. And Carter has also been so impressive to start the year as well. I mean, if you just watch the tape, Carter has been unbelievable. His power is amazing, his use of his hands is great, his speed, his body control, just everything about how this guy has been playing is really impressive. And we also have to remember, this guy's only a rookie and going into his 3rd NFL game this week, so things are only going to continue to get better from here, and that Philly Dawg defensive tackle duo with Davis and Carter looks like it could be a staple of this Eagles team for the foreseeable future if everything goes according to plan. Now, of course, one other Philly Dawg who was extremely impressive recently was DeAndre Swift. I mean, he just had a career night on Thursday versus the Vikings, and he surely earned himself a role as this team's lead back moving forward. Now, I actually just made a video kind of breaking down that game versus the Vikings and going into Swift's performance more in detail, so if you want to check that video out after this one, you can. But yeah, needless to say, Swift was really impressive on Thursday night. And then one final guy who I want to spotlight is Josh Sweat, who arguably besides Swift was the Eagles' best player on Thursday night. I mean, he potentially had a career day and no one is really talking about it. I mean, to start off, Sweat had the highest grade of any Eagles defensive player on Thursday with a grade of 92.1, and he also had 8 pressures, 3 hurries, 4 quarterback hits, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble. I mean, Sweat was really just an absolute monster on Thursday, and it looks like he could be preparing to be even better this season once again. I mean, we've seen throughout Sweat's career that he's been able to get better every single year so far, so hopefully that trend continues this year. Now Sweat and the Eagles will look to improve from their performance on Thursday night when they play their next game in a week from today versus the Bucs on Monday Night Football. And there's going to be a lot to cover from now until then, and also when that game happens, there will surely be a lot to talk about. So if you don't want to miss any of that on this channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications once again. And also, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like on it to show some support. Also, leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. I mean, do you think that the Eagles should move James Bradberry to the slot cornerback position? You gotta let me know down in the comments. And also, if you want to watch another video recapping the Eagles' win over the Vikings and also DeAndre Swift's career night, you can go watch this right here. Now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.